So I'm sure you did a lot of work educating many of these actors during the first season of C, especially early on. Now the series is entering its second season. Are you still expanding on that knowledge and bringing new things that we might not have seen or that you've seen these actors do in season one?
Definitely. We took what we were doing in season one and expanded on it like fivefolds for season two. You know, working with our actors, working with new characters, whether they're blind or low vision, or whether the characters are blind or whether their characters are sighted. And I reached out to a lot of friends and thought creatively around the world of blindness. And Jonathan Tropper, our new showrunner, and getting to work with the writers' room as they developed out the scripts and building in these themes. I keep running lists of things around blindness that we could use in our show, and they embraced some of those and built some of those into our show. And we did some of that in season one, and we did even more in season two. And it's exciting to get to bring that to the screen.
Actually, I want to talk about those sighted characters for a second because people might not understand you. I'm sure you work with them a lot as well. As you said, what
Mm-hmm.
are some of the most important things that you work on them with, and how much do you feel like that adds to the authenticity of the series as a whole?
Yeah, I've been very lucky to work on this show for the last 3 years. I guess over 3 years now, and so I know the world of C so well, and these characters, even with sight, are grown up in a world of people who are blind. So knowing all those aspects, and I'm lucky that I work with our director every day to block every scene, and whether it's characters who are blind in the scene or whether it's just characters with sight. And there, I see things in a different way, and so I give notes to our actors and whether they're portraying blindness or not, and whether how they interact with the other people who are the other characters who are blind, or whether it's just how they're interacting in this world we've created. It's a blessing. Nesta Cooper, Archie Madekwe, Eden Epstein, and so many other actors, Alfre Woodard, Dave Batista, Jason Momoa, all of them are so considerate about uh, bringing that world to life.
I actually want to talk about that world a little bit because you guys are really expanding on the setting and the world of this series this season. How much will that add to the story come up in season two?
We'll see you one more time.
How much will expanding on the world a little bit, because we get to see more of the world of
Yeah.
C in this second
Okay.
season, how much will expanding on that actually enhance the story this season?
Definitely. So in season two, we're showing you more than the small world that we were showing. You're going to find out more about Travantes. You're going to find out about these different civilizations and groups, and you're going to see how those civilizations work and how they differ from what you've seen in season one. So it's just going to be exciting to see those differences and what the resources were, what how the political climate was in that environment, who the leadership, who was driving that, basically driving the ship, you know, who was running that show, and how that world developed out. Because these worlds are in a certain distance, and but they don't interact in many ways, and but they develop out, and then we get to see them merge in certain aspects. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the weather might actually play a factor in this as well because it's getting a lot colder here in season two. Does that affect at all? Because I've always wondered this. Does that affect maybe the echolocation of people with blindness, and is that maybe going to factor in as well? Because I've always wondered that.
Great question. So the moving into winter, you know, you have less leaves on the trees, so your echolocation might go further in certain aspects. You might have less grass that is absorbing some of that sound. The harder surfaces it might be bouncing off, whether it's snow or ice. It definitely changes the sound and how echolocation travels. But it can be beneficial. You can hear people walking in a further distance, you walking through snow or ice. There are all kinds of aspects, and you use your staff in a different way when you're traveling through snow and ice versus walking on grass. Yeah, we played with all of those things in our scenes in our show, and you'll see more and more as you go into season two, and more echolocation as well.
Interesting, interesting. We're talking to Joe Strechay, who's the co-producer and blindness consultant for Apple TV's C. Now, Joe, family obviously a big part of this season. Let's talk about Baba and Ido Voss for a second. How much can you tell us about how deep that sibling rivalry runs, and how and could fans maybe be torn as to who's on the right side here?
I think just like any other show, characters are complex, and I think you'll see that with Ido Voss and Baba Voss. I think these characters and Baba Voss, their family and members being drawn in different directions, and you're going to see these characters develop out more, and you'll see the history between Ido and Baba and that explored, and the family members coming into their own. And I think it's there's so much happening in season 2, and there's so many storylines that fans will be drawn into, and I'm curious how they'll react to. That's a great question you're asking. So I'm curious what fans will think.
Things haven't exactly been easy for Queen Kane, especially we saw that at the end of season 1. Seems like she's still holding her kind of high standing, though, heading into season 2. After all that's happened, how careful does the Queen need to be heading into this season?
Queen Kane is definitely walking a line, and I think it's a new world, and we're gonna see what the Queen brings to it. She is a unique character. Sylvia Hoeks brings so much to that character, and her interactions with Magra and the world of sea, and we'll see what happens in Paya, and what comes of it. I think there's so many possibilities. I'm waiting. I'm really excited for what you'll all think of it.
Joe, before I let you go, I mean, you add Dave Bautista this season, and immediately, I don't care if you've watched the show before or not. You see Jason Momoa on one side and Dave Bautista on the other side. I mean, that's must see as far as I'm concerned. So, talk about what was the vibe like during those scenes between the two of them? Because I mean, you could probably cut the tension with a knife during those scenes, right? How cool was that?
It was pretty amazing to be in space with Dave Bautista and Jason Momoa, and as they're figuring out things and working on things, whether in fight scenes or whether it's just dramatic, and they bring so much to their characters, and they both have different processes and how they, as actors and as people, and it'll be intense when you see it on screen.
And you guys can see it right now, as a matter of fact, because season 2 of C has begun on Apple TV Plus. You can get caught up on season 1 pretty quickly as well if you haven't watched it yet. And just watch it, binge it from the beginning. It's Joe Strechay. Thank you so much, man, for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.